Could the Middle East lead to a third world war? Introduction. The Middle East has long been a region of geopolitical significance, characterized by a complex tapestry of cultures, religions, and conflicts. Throughout history, tensions in this region have had far-reaching implications, often spilling over into broader global conflicts. As we look at the current dynamics in the Middle East, one can't help but wonder, could this volatile area ignite a third world war? To explore this question, we will delve into historical contexts, current developments, and potential scenarios that could lead to a significant escalation in international conflict. Historical context. Understanding the possibility of a third world war stemming from the Middle East requires a glance at history. The region has been the epicenter of numerous wars and conflicts, from the Arab-Israeli wars to the Gulf Wars. The fallout from these conflicts often has international ramifications, drawing in superpowers and leading to widespread instability. The Cold War era saw the Middle East as a battleground for influence between the United States and the Soviet Union. Today, the legacy of that period still lingers, with various factions backed by different global powers, creating a web of alliances and rivalries. Each new conflict tends to resonate on a global scale, making it essential to consider how these historical patterns might repeat themselves in our modern context. Current geopolitical landscape. In today's world, the Middle East remains fraught with tension. Key players include Iran, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and various non-state actors such as Hezbollah and ISIS. The power dynamics are constantly shifting, often driven by religious sectarianism, nationalism, and economic interests, notably oil. Iran's influence. Iran's regional ambitions are particularly concerning for many Western nations and their allies in the Middle East. Its nuclear program, coupled with its support for proxy groups in countries like Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen, has raised alarms about the potential for conflict. The U.S. withdrawal from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, in 2018 heightened existing tensions, bringing the specter of military confrontation closer. Israel-Palestine tensions. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains unresolved, with recent escalations in violence highlighting the fragility of peace in the region. The potential for a wider war involving neighboring states if hostilities were to escalate further is a continual concern. The complexities surrounding this conflict could draw in various international players, resembling the entangled alliances of World War I. Proxy wars and regional power struggles. Recent developments in Syria and Yemen illustrate how regional players engage in proxy wars that can easily spill over borders. Saudi Arabia and Iran are engaged in a struggle for dominance, with each side investing heavily in military capabilities and backing various factions across the region. This ongoing rivalry threatens to ignite a larger conflict, especially if one side perceives an existential threat from the other. The role of superpowers. The involvement of global powers complicates the situation further. The United States, Russia, and China all have vested interests in the region, leading to a delicate balance that, if disrupted, could lead to broader conflict. U.S. interests. The U.S. has historically been deeply involved in Middle Eastern affairs, primarily driven by energy needs and security alliances. Its support for Israel and strategic partnerships with Gulf states create friction with Iran and other adversaries. An aggressive move by the U.S., particularly against Iranian assets, could provoke a military response, drawing in allies and enemies alike. Russia and China's stakes. Russia's military intervention in Syria marked its return as a key player in Middle Eastern politics. It seeks to project power and influence in what it considers its sphere of influence. Likewise, China's Belt and Road Initiative deeply intertwines its economic interests with the region, though its approach has been more diplomatic than militaristic. However, any perceived threat to these interests could prompt China to take a firmer stance, potentially aligning itself with Iran against U.S. interests. Potential scenarios for escalation. 1. Military confrontation between Iran and Israel. A direct military engagement between these two nations could involve U.S. and Russian support, rapidly escalating into a global conflict. 2. Widespread civil unrest. Should protests or revolutions arise in multiple countries simultaneously, There could be a chain reaction of conflicts, inviting foreign intervention and heightening tensions. 3. Resource conflicts. As water scarcity and climate change become pressing issues, disputes over resources could lead to armed conflict. 4. Terrorism and counter-terrorism efforts. A significant terrorist attack could trigger a disproportionate military response, drawing in multiple nations. 5. Nuclear proliferation. If Iran acquires nuclear capabilities, the balance of power shifts dramatically, prompting preemptive actions from Israel or the U.S. Global economic implications. The prospect of a war originating in the Middle East is not just a political concern. The economic repercussions could be dire. The region is pivotal for global oil supply, and any conflict would likely lead to skyrocketing oil prices, economic downturns, and disruptions in international trade. Countries reliant on energy imports would face severe consequences, potentially leading to domestic unrest. Conclusion. While the potential for a third world war emerging from the Middle East is unsettling, it's essential to approach this topic with a nuanced understanding. Historical patterns indicate that the region is prone to conflict, yet the global landscape has evolved considerably since the last world wars. Diplomatic engagements, economic interdependencies, and international organizations may provide mechanisms for de-escalation. Ultimately, the stakes remain high. The world must navigate the intricate web of alliances, tensions, and ambitions within the Middle East carefully. The potential for catastrophe exists, but with proactive diplomacy and a commitment to conflict resolution, we may steer away from the precipice of a third world war. The fate of millions hangs in the balance, and collective action is vital to ensure lasting peace in this critical region.